Welcome to yet another live episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 472. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this evening is Gail from nyfights.com. Fingers crossed we can have Daniel from 4Boxing News, Indie Inscriber, on at some point. He's currently tied up with other business affairs. Again, fingers crossed he can join us later. But in the
But
meantime, what's going on, Gail?
is but Daniel is holding forth in the chat, the live chat. So if you're
Indeed.
listening, there he is, Rockets 99. So if you want to chat it up with Daniel while we're talking about some recap reports and looking forward, he's right there for you.
Absolutely. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report live YouTube show podcast, discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, it will get discussed. If you check out the description below, for those who are checking us out on YouTube, you can find the various links to where to find Pound for Pound Box Report all over social media. Link to the Facebook page, link to the YouTube channel, link to the Twitter page. If you wish to email us, you can do so. P4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, etc. If you wish to donate, let donation be the best nation. You can do so via Cash Me and PayPal. It wouldn't matter to us if it's $1, $2, $5. If you want to contribute more, we will be grateful and we will accept. It'll help overall production behind the scenes. Let's get things going, Gail, by recapping this weekend. Let's start. Um, let's start with the ladies, and specifically Claressa Shields, the self-called GWOP, defending her undisputed heavyweight belts against Lani Daniels. Shields basically did what we all thought she would do and win comfortably. Uh, Daniels basically ran, as far as I'm concerned, for the first 4 rounds of that bout. But once she slowed down, Shields went to work. She got the win here, but there was a feeling of emptiness for me in the aftermath. Um, Interesting things that happened after this fight, right? Franchon Cruz was in attendance, and according to her, um, on In the Ring with Christine this morning. Shout out to Christine. You've heard her on this episode when it comes to Ladies Love Boxing series, right? Cruz Dezern explained that there was supposed to be, in effect, a stare down, a setup stare down between her and Shields immediately after the fight. But the camp of Shields handled things so poorly that there wasn't this stare down. And she went and vented about that. I put that into the discussion here to say, okay, Shields, you have your heavyweight belt, you're undisputed in that, but you're getting nothing for that belt. It's time for you to move back down, given Cruz deserve. Um, right, giving the lady who beat help me out, Gail, who beat Savannah Marshall recently,
Shadeja Green.
Shadeja Green. Um, you have opponents now. If Raquel Miller ever gets back in the ring and gets back into shape, I think she's a decent opponent for Shields. Uh, though she's not finding no real competition. She's not finding no real pushback. She's not finding anyone who's willing to really fight with her in that higher division. So for glory's sake and whatever, and just to collect belts, I get it. But your future is still at 160, 168 pounds. You have opponents now. It's time to do something at this point. If not, you're just wasting time.
Here's the difference. Here's what's really going on. As Claressa made it clear, I think, and handled it fairly well. Her fight last Saturday was her last fight on her long-term contract with Salida Promotions. Dimitri Salida signed her right out of the Olympics, has helped her build up to where she is today, has helped her handle her career really well, started staging these fights in the Detroit area, drawing in her hometown fans. And listen, if you didn't see the fight, you need to go back and watch highlights, if nothing else, for the atmosphere. The fans were in their seats for the early undercard. That place was damn near full. Almost, well more than half of the tickets were sold to women. There is a serious fan base now in Detroit, and Claressa is a guaranteed ticket seller, and a lot of that credit certainly goes to her for her performances, but it goes to Dimitri Salita, who built this up. Well, Claressa essentially said the thank yous and maybe the farewells to Dimitri. She said, I'm a free agent. So she needs to settle who she's going to work with before she can even think about an opponent, because it really is, the opponent's going to come down to what promoter she lands with. Now, it's very possible she could go back with Salita, and Salita recently signed Franchon Cruz, who has hopped around to a few different promoters. Shadeja Green is handled by Most Valuable Promotions, MVP. And they have made no secret over at MVP that they would like to bring Claressa over. And certainly there's got to be big money involved. Well, if that happens, then the obvious opponent is Shadeja, unless MVP wants to stage some kind of a welcome to the fold Claressa fight first and then make Shadeja the second fight. So this is about business and about Claressa's future and where she's going to try to cash in. I imagine that she's made good money, but she hasn't made the kind of money that the women over at MVP or the handful of fighters like a Katie Taylor have made. She's been very loyal to Dimitri, though, and he to her, but it looks like Claressa may have outgrown him. So let's see where she lands, maybe in the next 6 months, maybe before the end of the year. I have heard she wants to fight before the end of the year. That's what it's really all about. I don't see her ducking anyone. I see her getting her ducks in a row.
Sorry, I was on mute. For me, it's not a question of ducking. Um, I want her to do something substantive while she's in her prime.
Well,
In
let's
my
look at
fear,
who's she going to fight that she hasn't fought. Up to the let's look at the fight she just took. Daniels was her mandatory. She signed that fight, a couple of months ago. That was before Shadeja won. There was no guarantee Shadeja Greed was going to win that belt over Savannah Marshall. Franchon is out there, but she and Franchon have fought before. She and Franchon are very close friends. That's a tough call. I get it. So, Franchon aside, and Claressa knowing that Franchon had just been brought into Salita Promotions as she's on her way out, what else is she supposed to do? She's run through everybody. She wants to get through the women that are available at heavyweight, light heavyweight. And, it's going to take her a little bit of effort to move down. Now, I think she'll make 168, no problem. I think 160 and certainly 154 will be a big ask for her. But if she's motivated and the money's right, she'll do it. And she has said she'll do it. But she's run through everybody else. The blame doesn't go on her, and it's no one's fault. She simply has very little competition. So she's doing what she can. What every fighter does when their real targets aren't available or the timing's not right, you have to fight the best available opponent. Available being the key word. And Daniels was it. She did legitimately earn the spot. Yeah, those first few rounds were horrible. I thought, oh, Lord have mercy. Do we really? I didn't sit down to watch a track meet tonight. Come on. She settled down. She did much better when she stood in front of Claressa and tried to give it her best shot. And I would much more prefer and have much more respect for someone who goes out on their shield. And finally, when she did settle down, she did that. And she'll be able to go fight in Australia and New Zealand in front of a home audience. That loss isn't going to be devastating to her. You know, up in those upper weight divisions, honestly, there's just so few women up there. She'll get more fights. But Claressa did what she could do. The crowd was with her. They had a lot of fun. They enjoyed the undercard. The return of Tony Harrison was interesting to see, and he almost fell victim to his
He
ninth
need to stay retired.
curse. He did not stay retired. Good for him. He's only 34, and he had a great performance.
No, I was saying he needs to stay. He needs to
Oh,
stay
me
retired.
too. I don't think
He
so.
needs to go back.
I think he, you know, he fought at middleweight, and let's face it, there's not much talent in the middleweight division right now. So there's an open lane for him. Now, if he was going to fight at 154, I'd say, you know, don't waste your time, man. There's too much talent there. But at middleweight, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. And he looked fine. He did survive that ninth round. You know, 3 of his 4 losses took place in the ninth round. So you got to watch that ninth round curse, man. But he was very well received in his hometown in Detroit. That's where he was on the card. And, you know, I don't begrudge him giving it another go. Will he unify the division? Yeah, no, probably not. But we do need more competitors at middleweight.
Well, there is one more option for Shields, and Daniel puts it in here in the chat. Um, Says sadly, Jake Paul may actually have the money for that
No,
15 million she's offering.
right.
Something I really don't want to see.
I think
Layla's
it's
been retired
ridiculous.
for nearly 20 years. Why go
But
hunting for that?
but that will
Why?
be the women's version of Paul Tyson. So don't be surprised if it happens.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Let's move on and talk about some other fights. Uh, Mainly what took place at the theater in New York, not the big garden, but the little garden, as I like to call it, um, in New York. Headlined by Xander Zayas going for his first world title attempt, fighting Jorge Garcia for the vacant WBO belt at 154. Competitive early, Gail, but Zayas starting round, I say 4, in my opinion. He started to take control, start to settle down, box smartly. Smartly's not a, he began to use his brain in there. It did some very astute counterpunching, body work, as well as overall he was just too fast and too skilled against a Jorge Perez, excuse me, not Garcia. I'll fix that after the show in the description. My apologies. Jorge Perez, who was tough and durable, but he just didn't have the athleticism and the overall coordination to deal with a skilled, fast, um, faster Xander Zayas. Nice win. I salute the kid for winning his first world title. My only slight pushback is, okay, hold your horses on this talk of fighting a Fandora or fighting Bakra. Get some more seasoning, get some more title defenses, and then maybe in the future, in another year or so, try to hunt for the big dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for Top Rank. You know, their final show on ESPN, they had taken Zayas from a young signee at 16 up now to 22 years old. Gosh, it's hard to believe 6 years have gone by. And they did what they do best, develop young talent, show them the way up the ladder, and they got that one last title fight in the main event on before their upcoming break as they leave ESPN. And you're right, the difference was speed, especially hand speed. Zayas is not a destroyer. He's not a beat the crap out of you guy like Miguel Cotto. He's not a Tito Trinidad, but he is skilled. He is defensively responsible. He does everything well. Is he a one-punch knockout guy? No. But yeah, high compliance restoration and roofing, you're right. Xander made it look easy. And by the way, it's Jorge Garcia Perez, typical double-barreled last surname Mexican fighter. So I've heard him called both Garcia and Perez, and they're both right. I saw him on the card a few months ago here in the Oceanside, California, brand new arena where Gabriela Fondora was in the main event. And that's when Jorge Garcia Perez beat Charles Conwell, much to everyone's shock. That's what earned him the opportunity that he had on Saturday. And he ground out that fight with Conwell. It was just a rough fight. It wasn't a beatdown, it was just relentless grinding away. Zayas stays out of range enough. He's very tall for the weight division, good reach for the weight division. So he can stay out of trouble if he wants to. He's willing to engage. And once he's got someone broken down, just as you described, Garcia had some really good early rounds, but then, once that jab and that speed had slowed him down, Zayas is able to move in a little closer and take him on. And you could see the damage that Zayas had done in that last 2/3 of the fight. So he'll be able to win a lot of fights that way. But you're right. He should not be going on and taking on any of the other title holders. He is in a very competitive division. Just imagine him standing in front of that buzzsaw known as Bakram Murtazaliev. No. No, that man is a vicious seek and destroy fighter. That's a bad idea. Brian Norman, not a chance, right? Nobody like that. If he moves up, is he going to take on Boots Ennis? No, and Boots needs a few fights at that weight anyway before.
How about
Sebastian
Jesus Ramos?
Fedora? Sebastian Fedora is the one that has been mentioned, and that's a really bad idea.
I have to
Fedora's
say someone like Jesus Ramos.
Yes, somebody like that would make a lot of sense. There are some 154 fighters out there that would make sense for him that are just below belt level. Um, perhaps former title holders. And hey, a few fights in, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to put Tony Harrison in front of him. He's been in championship fights. He's a former world champion. So that looks good on the resume. I'm not saying it has to be Harrison in particular, but a guy like that is perfect for his next fight.
I have no. Um,
Keith Thurman wouldn't be a bad choice, honestly. Wouldn't hate that fight.
exact. That's a good option as well. Thurman. I was thinking also someone like a Charles Conwell, more in that line.
Right. Although
Um,
his opponent last Saturday was the guy that beat Conwell. So
yeah, that's true.
Conwell, if Conwell rehabs himself and gets a couple of good wins, he's right back in because there is a lot of busyness. They're not going to put him in front of Virgil Ortiz, and they're probably not going to put him in front of Suri Boachuk. That is a really bad
Oh,
style.
yeah. Check this name out, Gail. What Daniel just put up.
Oh, you're a joker, man. Blair Cobbs was all over the place in Las Vegas during Pacquiao Barrios week, man. He was offering himself up to anybody who would talk to him about a fight. He does know how to sell a fight. He does indeed know how to sell one. So there you go. And you are muted. And you're muted again. And you are on mute, Michael.
I'll take over, Gail, because it sounds like your mic is a little bit distorted, at least on my end. Um, See if I can get you back. Um,
I'm here, no problem.
you may be able to hear me fine, Gail, but on my end, your mic is real distorted and choppy, unfortunately. Give me a quick second while I get this going. Speak now, Gail. See if things are any better.
How's that sound? Any good? I will
No,
log back in.
okay. Um, while Gail gets things situated on her end, um, and for those who are listening live, Compliance and Daniel, if any of us are choppy right now, just or if I'm choppy right now, just let me know while Gail gets back in. I'll continue on with the fight breakdown, fight recaps on the undercard of Zayas and Garcia. You had Bruce Chushu Carrington fighting Mateus Heita. In a similar vein, Heita was competitive earlier against Shushu, but starting at the midway point, in my opinion, excuse me, um, Shushu began to separate himself uh, after having some difficulty landing. Um, he began to find his rhythm, Shushu, and really begin to connect with the combinations during the latter half of the fight. Now, Timothy Bradley during the contest, Gil, was a bit critical of Shushu Carrington, questioned whether he could beat the rest of the lot, the bigger names in the division. Your thoughts on Carrington's performance, and was Timothy Bradley a little bit too critical of Carrington?
Well, Bradley was always very well aware of what the crowd, the fans wanted, right? Got him into trouble from time to time, but he he hears them. And through the later parts of the fight, as Carrington kind of got himself on cruise control, you did hear some booing going on. Now, he had the misfortune of following Emiliano Vargas. So Vargas had an absolute spectacular fight, which we'll talk about in a second. But following that, Carrington's performance in comparison is okay, he's got this in hand. Let's go get our beverages refreshed. So Bradley, fired a little bit of a shot of warning towards Shushu, saying, son, you're great in the ring after the fights. Your call outs are fun, but damn it, you got to step it up in the ring. Now, to his credit, once he won, Carrington did something that he hasn't really done very often. He's always talked about, I want to fight one of the champions. Anybody with the belt. No, this time, Rafael Espinoza was sitting right there. He pointed right at him. It's like, you are it. You're the one I'm after. I think it's not a real good matchup for Carrington, but God bless him for, wanting to give it his best shot. And his rationale for targeting Espinoza, when a lot of us are saying, you got to be kidding, man. Carrington pointed out, hey, Espinoza was not all that well regarded and not all that well known. When he got the shot to fight Robesi Ramirez, he won, and look where we are. So he said, I've earned my shot the same way that Espinoza got a shot against Ramirez, won. That needs to be me. I need to take on Espinoza. What's the appetite for Top Rank putting their two guys together? They're very willing to do it at the right time and place. Is that it? We'll see. I don't mind that matchup at all, but I think that would be a uphill climb, and pun intended, if he takes on Espinoza. He's an absolute buzzsaw.
Okay. Unfortunately, you still sounding a little bit distorted. Am I sounding choppy to you, Gail?
Not at all.
I don't know what's going on. Some technical issues here. I tried to reboot everything on my end, and I thought it was me, but I'm not sure. You may have to change mics or something. I'm not sure. Uh, and it could be StreamYard. Let me see if we can get Daniel on here. Um, if you can hear us,
All
Daniel,
right.
speak, please.
Yes, I can. Yeah. Unfortunately, my Bluetooth headset didn't want to connect for a little bit. All right. This was actually a pretty decent fight for Shushu.
If you can hear us,
As
Daniel,
far as
speak, please.
I
See
can
if
hear
we
you,
see
Mike. Can
anything
you hear
now.
me? I can hear you just fine, Mike.
My sincerest apologies, y'all. I think that StreamYard. Can you hear us? For everybody who else is here in the chat, just let me know if you can hear me clearly. Give me a thumbs up if you can. Compliance. Okay. We're talking about Daniel. While you're here, we're talking about Shushu Carriengton and his win over Mateus. Uh, um, the question is your thoughts on his performance, and was Tim Bradley a little bit too harsh during the fight about Carrington?
Shushu Carrington is a fighter to me that knows he has the pieces together, but unfortunately, he's starting to look to me not in the echelon of skill set as to Dimitri Bivol, but may have the same tendency as Dimitri Bivol. Where, like I said, if you guys have been long listening to the show, unfortunately, to me, Dimitri Bivol is the type of fighter that if he knows he's not going to knock you out by the third round, he's just going to outbox you and not put himself too much at risk. While it's still killful, it may not be pleasing for the casual fans. And Shushu's cut a little bit in that same cloth. Like in this fight, you could tell easily that by the third or fourth round, this was going to be somewhat of a cakewalk for Shushu. But he didn't, and he just did enough where he didn't put himself at risk. And unfortunately, in the Garden, especially the Hulu Theater,
I'm not able to hear you, Daniel.
I can hear
This
you.
is awkward.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Michael. But what I was saying is that Shushu, like I said,
My sincerest
unfortunately,
apologies
that's
for those who are listening. Give
oh
me
sorry.
a try to fix some things on my end, and hopefully we can get things back running shortly.
All right, folks. As I said, if you are able to listen to us in the comments, just definitely let me know on that end. And with compliance, I did see your comment that Bradley is a little bit too critical. I think it's something that Shushu does need to hear. He does need to hear that, okay, you know you have the goods to win a fight, to win a decision. But now you have to put it together to make sure that you're winning the fight and you're winning pretty much like the hearts and minds of the fans. And to me, he wasn't overly critical in that sense because I can see where Tim Bradley's coming from. We have to remember this is the same Tim Bradley that fought a fight in the Home Depot Center. I'm never gonna call it that dignity thing. In the war grounds in California, essentially concussed for like 3 or 4 rounds. So that is a very, very telling critique from that type of fighter. But like I said, Shushu, luckily, he did pick a good opponent for next to Espinosa. We have to see if that is the fight brings out that different skill set that Shushu needs to be an all-around great fighter. Oh, and it looks like, unfortunately, Mike dropped off. We do apologize, folks, unfortunately, for the technical difficulties. Like I said, I do apologize. I know I jumped in also a little bit late. Want to give, well, I'm on here by myself. I'll give a couple of thoughts on the Claressa Shields fight. It was what I expected it to be. This was not going to be a particularly hard fight for Claressa. And unfortunately, it does put her in a situation now that she's technically a free agent where she has to go down in weight in order to get the fights that she may want. Because unfortunately, I expected at least 2 or 3 years ago that at least the women's cruiserweight or women's heavyweight division would be more varied and have more high caliber opponents at this stage. But unfortunately, that doesn't look to be the case still. But Claressa, like I said, it's a free agent. She's been gunning for Layla Ali. Unfortunately, Jake Paul might be the only one that may have the money and the interest to be able to pay that bounty to Miss Ali should she take it. But in all honesty, I could also see Claressa going back to Salida. Like, it's the hometown promotion. They've built her up really, really well from the ground up. And ultimately, that's going to be a very, very different situation and should you move. Now, I get to see here Larry Liston. I do see here. Top Rank not to be on an ESPN is for me one of the saddest things in boxing these last few years. It marks for me a great downfall for Fox on TV. First PBC off, Showtime, now this. And then I used to be a big critic of Top Rank, but it's now easily the best promotion, at least for my money. Seeing them being off ESPN is critical. Really hope they don't get with the zone. I don't really think, unfortunately, that Top Rank is going to get with the zone. Mainly because it looks like the zone is very, very comfortably in bed with who I call the blood money mark, Turkey. I just call him the blood money mark. That's what he has to be. And they're probably not going to be able to digest in that area if they don't kowtow to Turkey and maybe even Dana White, because if we look at the halls of government, they want to modify the Muhammad Ali Act to try to make boxing into the UFC, which is one of the dumbest ideas I have ever heard in my life. But we'll leave it there for the moment, folks. Luckily, it looks like we have Gail and Mike back. Hopefully, they hear me and I hear them.
I'm hearing you fine, Daniel. I've always heard you just fine. Michael?
Michael might be the one,
I think
unfortunately, with
Michael's
the
the
issues.
problem, not us.
Oh, no.
But I agree with you. Picking up that thread of conversation, I'm having that conversation with Larry here in the chat. Bob Arum did an interview with Sean Zattel, one of the best boxing reporters on YouTube. If you're not following Sean Zattel, and he said they are speaking with 3 possible candidates. And he said 2 of them have a linear television component. Now, that could be cable, that could be broadcast. I sincerely doubt it. You know, in my mind, it is going toward Warner Brothers Discovery. And there is information that is absolutely at the rumor stage at this point that they might end up on Turner. Turner's properties have done a lot of sports broadcasting. And if you've been able to handle NBA basketball, NCAA basketball, any other sport, haven't they also carried the NHL, numerous other sports on their channels? You know, boxing, frankly, is a very simple sport to produce. It's not like you will have had to be in the boxing production business for a long time to do a good job. Heck, Thompson Boxing out here in Southern California was doing pretty darn good promotions and productions and getting a ton of people watching them on YouTube. And their production crew was essentially 1 technical guy and 2 high school students running the cameras. And it was just fine. Was it, a lot of bells and whistles? Was it, the kind of incredible production money that Netflix and MVP have the money to produce? No. Did we get to see good fights? Yes. We still did without the trappings. It's like you can have a great meal at a prestige restaurant that everything's presented beautifully and it's a luxury experience and you enjoy the meal, and you can also go to a hole in the wall. If the surroundings are, maybe a little rough, you might enjoy that meal just the same way. So we'll see what happens. And here we are, and I agree with Daniel that it is very possible, going back to Claressa Shields, who's clearly a hot property right now, with plenty of options, she may decide to go right back to Salida because it has been a really good relationship. But I do think she's going to have the grass is greener itis and want to try something else, and we'll see what happens. Larry, that's an interesting comment here in the chat. Peacock on NBC. NBC is seriously discussing bringing back a 2026 version of its NBC Sports Network, right? Remember that? And the last boxing property it was involved in was Ring City, which I was very enthusiastic about. And it's a shame that, it just kind of fizzled. And it fizzled a little bit along with NBC Sports Network, but bundling all of the sports under the Peacock brand isn't working that well. And they have some really good properties. They carry all of the Olympic sports in the Olympic years, plus the out of competition. For example, they're running the World Swimming, Diving, Aquatic Championships this week. They run professional cycling. They have on occasion picked up some boxing. They had a short contract with Boxer in the UK. NBC knows what to do with boxing if they want to do it. And that does have that cable/broadcast option in addition to streaming. So let's see what happens. But don't expect to hear anything right away. Top Rank will not have any cards in August. They may announce cards to start in the early fall, but they're going to need a media deal before they can place a card. So, I think that's going to take longer maybe than we think, but no one should panic. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Before I jumped off, I was going to say the interesting part about the Warner Bros. Discovery, what may be holding up if that is to partner, we have to remember that company is now going to split into two next year. And what's interesting enough is that it's the movie studios and the streaming side that are going to have the Warner Brothers name, and the broadcasting side would have HBO. Would be called Discovery.
Right. Although now Turner goes over to the broadcast side, the linear side, I think is probably a better way to put it. So when I'm hearing the rumors about Turner being the candidate, then that means the Turner half of the divided company. And of course, what we're all speculating about is, does that mean we could have Top Rank back on HBO Boxing? Aram completely shot that down when he was asked. But the deal isn't done. So, Bob, I believe you. I believe what you're saying. But I'm still holding out hope. That would be an absolute blockbuster if Top Rank brought back HBO Boxing, the name, right? I mean, their staff has scattered, and frankly, all of the top staff from HBO Boxing went to DAZN. Would they come back? Not if they've got solid jobs. They don't. So they need to rebuild the company. But I do think there are some people who would go back.
There will be some people that would go back, but like HBO Sports in general has to be rebuilt from the ground up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Because remember, when they left sports, they left almost everything. Like Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, It's no longer thing. The sports
Yeah,
reporters were
I
no
think
longer
Real
thing.
Sports was kind of the last thing they held out on. Did they probably did one more season of Hard Knocks, a few more Real Sports, and they called it. So,
Yeah,
but boxing
that's
is long before that. So, trivia fans, what was the last fight aired on HBO Boxing? And I was there. Got any idea, Daniel? This is a really odd trivia question because, man, they went out with a little bit of a whimper.
well. Unfortunately, I don't know the B side, but I do know it was pretty much you could say the American debut of Cecilia Brækhus.
That's correct.
And
It was Cecilia Brækhus, and her opponent was Emmy-nominated Callie Reese, who appeared on True Detective Night Country with Jodie Foster. And
yep,
I thought Callie won that fight. But
yeah, that
it was at the War Grounds in Carson. It was fall. And you know what, folks? Sitting outside on a chilly fall night with a concrete floor, that place is cold, you know, and maybe that gave Callie the inspiration to play that, police officer in Alaska in that series because it was just freaking cold. And out of the 8,200 capacity, there was maybe 1,800 of us in the seats and in the media section. And yes, Jim Lampley did break into tears several times. God bless him.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
that was the
sad event.
last card. And you know who hung there and cheered everyone on and stayed till the bitter end? And I respect her for it. Halle Berry.
Yep, Halle Berry is the West Coast version of Rosie Perez when it comes to boxing fans, folks.
Yes, she is. Yeah, that's a good call. Yes,
She,
she is. And she knows her stuff. So she's not there just to be seen. She sits in the regular seats and has a good time. So
yep. Mm.
So I think we've lost our host, Daniel. I think that it is him who has completely flamed.
Yeah, like I think he did say that he was restarting his router, and I know we finished on the fights, and
Yeah.
unfortunately there was a couple of bit of news, but the main one involves the once again undisputed heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk, and when we spoke about Usyk beating Daniel Dubois, especially the way he beat Daniel Dubois. I think all three of us did have a wish for an opponent, and the WBO seems to have listened, and they have now ordered Alexander Usyk to fight
Yes.
Joseph Parker. I think they did it about a few days ago, so they have 30 days to negotiate. If not, it goes to a purse bid. I don't mind this fight. Joseph Parker is pretty much the last decent caliber heavyweight of this era that Usyk hasn't really fought because I'm sorry, folks, as much as he was entertaining, as much as he gave knockouts, if you're trying to say Deontay Wilder at this stage, I
No,
cannot
no,
take you
no, no,
seriously.
no. Yeah, no. That's not the fight we want. Parker has earned this. He's had to step aside. He's taken on everybody. He has won fights we didn't expect him to win. He took down Jarrell Miller. He took down who was his next opponent after that? Zhang. He's
Yep.
absolutely earned his shot at Usyk. Do I think he's going to win? I don't think so, but I do think he'll look a hell of a lot better than Daniel Dubois did because he's pretty crafty. He's developed into an exceptional technician himself over the years because he's had to, and he deserves the money. I he just simply deserves it. It's the right thing to do, and I don't need any rematches the third and fourth time to see somebody get beaten down by Usyk. And as much as it does intrigue me to see Moses Itama, he's not ready. We do need to see what he does against Dillian White coming up here in a matter of some days. But we're still wondering, does he pass the eye test, right? Is
Yeah.
he the goods. He's still so young, but we're so eager to see what he's got. You don't want to push him out there too quickly and wreck his career, wreck his trajectory. You know, I'm not sure he's even 21 quite yet. So,
No, I think he is 20. I think he's
well, his
20, about to be turned 21 this year, I believe.
yeah, I think you're right. His quest, remember, he said, I want to be the youngest ever heavyweight champion, which meant he'd have to break Mike Tyson's record, which was 20 years old in a handful of days, and he unfortunately passed through that. So he doesn't need to be, you know, if he was going to get a shot at that, you know what, go for it. But, you know, that opportunity is no longer there. So there's just no reason to rush him. You know,
No, there's none.
put him in against best available. Dillian White, I don't hate that at all. That's a great domestic fight. Dillian wants to get in there. He's good at selling a fight. That'll be fun to see. I don't mind seeing him against some other domestic talent. I wouldn't be surprised if they let him step in front of David Allen, you know, who beat Johnny Fisher. Which is a huge British domestic heavyweight rivalry. And I think he'd kick Dave Allen's ass. But hey, you know, it's a regional fight and it would be a lot of fun for them. And it would,
Yeah.
I think, would do very well. It would sell great. Dave
Yeah.
Allen's insanely popular. And he's, you know, he really is more journeyman at this point, even though he did win against Fisher. So, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Yeah,
of
Moses is very, very young. I would not put him in a test like that. Dillian White is, let's say, for all intents and purposes, he is the brand new Derek Chisora, like that type of tough
yes,
British
yes.
fighter that is willing down to fight anytime, anywhere, but you know he's a domestic level fighter now.
Well,
And
but
so
you
it
know
is a
the
good test
thing,
for him.
yeah, and you know with a guy like that, you're gonna get the entertainment value, right? And
Hmm.
that is one thing the British market does so much better than we do, is guys who got losses on their record, you know, and maybe some of those losses were, you know, pretty bad. But they've come out the other side. They still have the desire. They still have a huge fan base, and they say, "I'm it." My hands, you know, their hands raised. Their fans buy tickets. What the hell? You know, put them right back in. So why not? You know, it is a business, and those guys make their promoters money. Because
Yep.
fans show up. So
Yep. And
all
but
those
for
regional
Alexander
contests are
Usyk,
really
yeah.
important.
Yeah, but for Alexander Usyk, like I said, this is to me a great way to have a standoff. Like
Yeah.
you've answered every question that somebody has asked you when it comes to an opponent. Granted, outside of Wilder, but let's face facts, folks. Wilder after the first Fury fight was not the same. He just was not. So that point, that ship has sailed. But he's pretty much answered every question. He pretty much owns the UK fight scene at this stage.
He does. He
That
absolutely does.
and Parker kind of completes. He somewhat completes the set because we have to remember he is from New Zealand, and
Right. Right.
New Zealand to me, I think it's still. I don't think they're fully independent. It might still be a Commonwealth, but if I'm wrong, I'm
There
wrong.
are a Commonwealth country, but I mean they are their own nation. But yes, they belong to the Commonwealth, the Greater Commonwealth. So,
Yeah,
but you
exactly.
know,
Yeah,
yeah, Usyk has absolutely nothing left to prove, right? And he's made generational wealth. And I thought he might announce his retirement after his fight with Dubois, but no, he seems completely ready and willing to carry on. You know, there aren't a lot of big, you know, big punching killers out there in front of him right at the moment. Again, unless Atama advances, but he's not there yet. There's no one on this side of the pond ready to go.
no,
I mean,
there's no
there's
well.
Jalalov, who's just so damn flaky. He's got his own problems. So bring on Parker.
There's that. There's that. Like the closest person I can think of is Richard Torres,
Oh
but
no. Oh no.
size wise, it'd be comparable, but skill wise, it leaps and bounds.
I
Oh,
yeah, and Torres wouldn't sell enough tickets internationally. I don't think anybody knows who he is. I mean, that's a shame for him, but yeah. I would have maybe a few months ago thought maybe Cuban heavyweight Denier Pero might be a candidate, but Pero just about got himself knocked the F out by a Mexican journeyman on a pro was it it was a weekend, it was a Florida card. I don't think it was a Probax card, and that could have been an absolute disaster. He managed to win the fight, but honestly, trying to think of the man's name. I think it was Cesar Hernandez, guy from Baja with a typical mystery Mexican from the border, like a 12-0-1 record, and nearly crushed him. So that would not work. So I think Usyk will need to have that fight with Parker and decide what he really has left to do. We go from there. The only other possibility in my mind is, let's say we get down the road and Jai Opataya has nothing better to do. Maybe he'd like to move up from cruiserweight for a one-off heavyweight fight with Usyk. I wouldn't mind that.
I think we're at the point where we actually have to start looking seriously at the cruiserweight division for actual contenders at this stage.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
unfortunately,
And there's some real talent there, absolutely.
yeah. Now, I'll say this. And I'll say this because they almost did get a chance to fight before when you had that great cruiserweight tournament and Dorticos. To me, would probably be an interesting fight.
Yeah, he didn't cross paths with Dorticos, did he? He didn't.
No. Like
Yeah.
Dorticos, I think lost in the semifinals of that.
Yeah, I think you're right. He did give Opataya a good scrap, but yeah. And we're stretching because we want to see more of Usyk, knowing that the clock is running out on him, but he doesn't need a fight just for a fight's sake. I mean, the day he retires, we will all applaud and start counting down the days when he's eligible for the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's a gimme. It really is. So, well, why don't we move on? And I think that the rest of the show is up to us. So the good news is we just have a handful of short previews, and let's get to it. And I'd say let's talk about the main card for this weekend. August is going to be tiny bit of a quiet boxing month, and that's okay because it's going to get crazy in September.
Okay.
Oh, hey.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. How about
We
you?
can hear you, Mike. We can hear you, Mike, loud and
Finally,
clear.
y'all were sounding real choppy. I don't know what it was.
Well, I think it was.
But I think y'all could hear me fine.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
But now y'all are starting to clear up finally. My apologies to everyone, and thank you, Gail and Daniel, for picking up the slack for me.
Well, you have
And
arrived
I
at
was
the perfect moment. We are ready to do some previews. Take on over.
let's do so with the previews. Okay, there's a card on the zone. I think this is a Golden Boy card. I mean, a Matchrooms card. Oscar Duarte versus Kenneth Sims Jr. Regis Prograis versus JoJo Diaz. I'm like, I'll let either one of you discuss which fights you want to talk about. Uh, Not for nothing, no offense, but I'm like indifferent towards this card. I'm not moved by either fight. I have to be honest.
It's given the Golden Boy crew some work. Yeah, is it a big blockbuster? No, not at all. But get some of their stable in, do we want to call them stay busy fights? Not really. They've got them well matched at the level of, what you would expect. And in the main event, you're going to see Oscar Duarte of Mexico facing Kenneth Sims. And the fight card is taking place in a city that hasn't had a card in a hell of a long time, Chicago. So
Yep.
that's the real draw of the card. It's the fact that it's being staged at the University of Illinois in Chicago for Chicago fight fan audience, and I do like that part. Are they getting championship level fights? No. Are they going to get
No.
to see a few names? Yeah, a handful. Are they going to get to see some decent action? I think they will. I do think you don't have a lot of elegant technicians on this card. They're going to come
Yes.
and bring it. That's the bottom line. So you've got Duarte and Sims, both, with a pretty good run behind them. Duarte, in particular, has beaten in order Joseph Diaz Jr., which was a bit of a surprise, Bodrzan Akhmedov, which is a good win on a Riyadh season card, and then on the February card in Anaheim, he beat Miguel Medueno, veteran. It was a good fight. That was a very nice looking knockout in the 7th round. So now he's got Kenneth Sims coming up, who got picked up by Golden Boy, who's been on a hell of a good win streak since his last loss, which was back in 2018. That's practically like one of those things where, you keep your nose clean after a ticket and it disappears from your record. We should do that in boxing, right? Because he lost to Samuel Tea by unanimous decision back when he was still doing 8-round fights. But since then, he has beat Elvis Rodriguez. He has beat Akhmedov. He beat Kendo Castaneda, who admittedly is a journeyman, but he had a good fight against him. So this is Golden Boy's proof point with Sims to see where he is, because we all know what Duarte is capable of doing. And he has taken out a hell of a lot of Golden Boy's talent. His only really bad loss was to Ryan Garcia, who knocked him out cold in the 8th round 2 years ago. So let's see what they've got. But they should go to it. Duarte always puts on a fight worth watching, and this is a really important fight for Sims as well, because if he's got any shot at a decent opponent and good money, he has to win.
Yeah. Well, you're a fan of the first fight, Gail. I'm a fan of the other fight.
There we
Honestly.
go. Yeah, and what an interesting fight that's going to be. Take it from here.
Yeah. Right. Now you have one of those classic crossroads fights between two guys who were contenders and champions in their weight, but unfortunately didn't stick around that long holding in those reins for various reasons. We know the situation with Regis Prograis. We know there have been some hard luck decisions with him. Same thing with JoJo Diaz. But they've proven that they can put on the show. It doesn't have to be a technical masterpiece, but they will give you your money's worth. And let's be honest, both of these guys are at the tail end of their career. Prograis, for all intents and purposes, we know that did sign to BKFC. So that's going to be an interesting shift down the line. And him coming into this stage, it might give an opportunity for somebody like JoJo Diaz a way in, because Prograis might already be thinking of the next venture. But JoJo's still trying to put himself back into a level of contention. And that's going to lead to me to a really, really good sound, but really fun fight. And you put the nail on the head, Gail. Chicago. Chicago, it doesn't matter if it's boxing, if it's MMA, if it's wrestling. They are a crowd that like to show up and they will cheer a good product. If you give them a crap product, they will let you know. And but I think in this case they're gonna get two very interesting fights. Like for like Duarte and Sims, yeah, it's more of a test for Sims, but this is the way Golden Boy likes to do things. Golden Boy is a promotion that is not afraid of putting their contenders in with tough fights. They are willing to risk it if it shows that the fighters are the good. And for Sims, this is a great opportunity against Duarte because Duarte is going to bring it. And for this fight with Prograis and JoJo Diaz, both of these guys are guys that wear their hearts on their sleeve when they fight. They're going to give it their all. It is, yes, it is not going to be pretty, but it is going to be a great, entertaining fight throughout. And I would not be surprised if it actually winds up being a draw or
Oh
a
my
slight JoJo
No.
Diaz decision
Oh
split
my
decision
God.
win. But you know what? But like both of these guys have done a lot for the sport, and if this is the way for JoJo to advance, try to build himself a contention. That's good. We know Progress, like I mentioned, he's signed to BKFC. We know what his next venture is going to be. So
Yeah.
if it would be a decent send off for Progress in a sense, even if he wins, like I said, it'll be a good send off as he heads to the bare knuckle arena.
Yeah.
And for JoJo,
Quite
like
a
I
few
said,
names
build.
have now signed with bare knuckles. So he would join with a class of, you know, fairly well known boxer former champions going over there. So it's interesting timing. I don't know what Diaz Jr.'s situation is promotionally though. He had gone over to Pro Box. He bundled that move with a very serious stay in rehab. He has freely acknowledged his battle with alcoholism, and I hope he's out on the other side, performs well. But yeah, Prograis probably win or lose, heads to bare knuckle. Diaz wins, he sticks with it. Lose, he follows Regis, Jamel Herring, a few other guys over to bare knuckle.
Yeah. Either way, it's a good send off for a good area. And like I said, Chicago, they don't get a lot of boxing cards.
Yeah,
They get a lot of everything
no,
else.
have fun. They're gonna get to see Golden Boy's Texas-born cruiserweight Tristan Calcruth, who's a fun guy to see. A couple of their young prospects, Gail Cabrera, super bantamweights on the card, fighting the ever popular TBA. I still don't have an opponent for him. You also have Yair Benjamin Gallardo Lozano. Yeah, who's that? He's a light heavyweight out of Mexico with 9 fights and 8 knockouts in those 9 fights. Who doesn't want to see that? So, our friends in Chicago, go have a great time.
Okay, y'all.
It's not high level craft. Enjoy it for what it is.
Okay, one more fight to talk about because y'all starting to sound a little bit choppy. What I may do is I'll let y'all talk about it and then wrap things up and end the show because I'm having some technical issues again. In Japan, on the 30th, which is a couple of days from this recording, you got Kenshiro Teraji defending his uh, flyweight title against fighter by the name of Sandoval. Uh, in inspecting and checking out the resume and watching both guys on film, particularly the challenger, Gail Daniel. I'm not going to put the word light work to define this fight, but I know a relatively easy opponent when I see it. That seems to be the case here with Taraji, who has an eye on moving up to 115 pounds to challenge unified champion Bam Rodriguez.
You're not willing to say light work, Michael. I will not say light work. I will say stay busy. I will say that this is a fight to make sure that Kenshiro still is able to move, still has loose enough gear not to keep him on the shelf too long before moving up to challenge Bam. This should not be a challenging fight for him. However, we have seen over and over and over again, if you underestimate by any chance the no name Latin fighters coming in some ways, they are the best to upset the apple cart. Even though I don't think that's going to happen in this case, I think Inshiro's going to take it fairly well. And yes, the 30th is a Wednesday. We have boxing in the middle of the week, thanks to Japan, and it should be a fun fight because this should keep Kenshiro sharp for that eventual fight with Bam, and that's going to be an interesting fight to look forward to.
Okay, I don't see Gail on here. She may have had technical issues on my end. So I may just end things here. Uh, Want to thank everybody for listening. My apologies again from technical issues um, on my end throughout the show. Hopefully, have things fixed, resolved by the time we come back. Gail, I see you right here. She says she's in the live chat right now, listening and looking forward to the Wednesday action in Japan, which will be on the zone for those who want to see it here in the States. For those who want to talk boxing with Gail, you can check out her on Twitter because I refuse to call it X, PR Pro um, San Diego. You can also check out her writings and stuff on at nyfights.com. And she does have her YouTube channel. You could just look up her name, do a search of her name, uh, Gail Falkenthal on boxing. You can find that her channel on YouTube, which she interviews fighters and other boxing personalities. I'll go to you, Daniel. For those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk pro wrestling, um, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can find you.
Folks, you can catch me in the same socials throughout. If it's Twitter, Threads, Bill, Blue Sky, Rawkers99, RAWKZ99. So definitely catch me on there. And once again, I want to give a shout out again to Gail. Not only her boxing channel, her Substack as well. Substack has become, like I said, a great tool for a lot of writers that have been either let go or have chosen to go the freelance route. Definitely support her there. And like I said, I'm going to be able to hop in shortly in the writing booth soon. And even though August is a light month, we know we have a big fight to look forward to. And guess what, folks? We don't actually have to pay a pay per view price to get it. So we may have to wait a little bit in August, but we know September we might get some filet mignon.
Indeed, indeed, and yeah, I put it up here for those who are checking us out on YouTube. Gail Falkenthal on boxing. You can find her channel on YouTube. For those who want to talk boxing, music, and fitness with yours truly, you can do so on Twitter, Brother Jr at Brother Jr 76. You can also check me out on IG, Brother JRSC. Um, Again, if you're checking out the description, if you're listening to us live or just listening to us on YouTube, period, make sure you hit that like, subscribe button. To do so, you will get notification for all future episodes of the show. Because boxing is going to be a light month, um, August is going to be a light month for boxing. We will probably not be on, at the very least, next week, but as Daniel teased, boxing is really, really going to pick up uh, um, starting in September. We may be back in a couple of weeks to talk Nick Ball He's defending his featherweight belts over in Saudi Arabia. Ray Ford fighting. Raymond Ford is fighting on the undercard, as well as Moses Atuma fighting Dillian White. We may come back to cover that, but we may take advantage of the downtime this month to maybe take a week at the very least off, maybe a couple of weeks. Again, my apologies for the technical issues throughout the episode here. For Gil of nyfights.com and Gail Falkenthal on boxing, for Daniel of For Boxing News, Indian Scriber. I have been your host, Michael. This is episode 472 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you next time. And hopefully, the production, overall production, will be better next time. Episode 472, Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you again soon. Um, Everyone have a good evening. Good night.